group said it views the consecrations as necessary because of what it considers an ongoing crisis within the modern church, stressing that its plans remains unchanged despite the Pope's appeal and threat of excommunication. The dispute marks the first major challenge facing Pope Leo XIV since the beginning of his pontificate, during which he has repeatedly emphasized unity within the Church while seeking closer engagement with traditionalist Catholics. The Vatican has reiterated that dialogue remains open, but warned that if the consecrations proceed, those involved will face the same canonical penalties imposed after a similar unauthorized ordination by the Society in 1988. Hundreds of striking bus drivers joined workers across Brazil in nationwide demonstrations demanding better wages, improved working conditions, and the end of the country's 6-day working week. The protests coincide with growing debate in the Senate over a proposed constitutional amendment that would reduce the standard work week to 40 hours spread across 5 days without cutting employees' salaries.
The proposed reform has gained support from President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva as part of his broader labor agenda ahead of October's presidential election. Supporters argue that millions of Brazilians, particularly low-income workers, deserve more time with their families and better opportunities to balance employment with personal responsibilities after decades of demanding work schedules. Workers participating in the demonstration described the emotional and social cost of working 6 days every week, saying the long hours prevent them from spending meaningful time with relatives or caring for their children. Campaign organizers said the proposal represents a major step towards improving workers' quality of life, while some lawmakers compared the existing schedule to outdated labor practices that no longer reflect modern standards. Business groups, however, have warned that reducing working hours without lowering pay could significantly increase labor costs, especially for small businesses that account for most employers in Brazil. While supporters believe that reform would improve living standards for millions of workers, employers caution that the measure could force businesses to reduce operating hours, raise prices, or cut jobs if it becomes law.
Australia's consumer watchdog has launched legal action against Amazon, accusing the company of using unfair contract terms when introducing advertisements to its Prime video streaming service. The case affects more than 1 million Australian subscribers who signed contracts between late 2023 and mid-2025. The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission argues customers who had already paid for annual subscriptions were forced to accept advertising or pay an additional monthly fee to keep the service ad-free. Regulators say subscribers were left without meaningful compensation despite receiving a reduced service. According to the lawsuit, Amazon relied on contract provisions, allowing it to make significant changes to services without offering refunds or other effective remedies. The watchdog says these terms violated Australia's consumer protection laws by placing subscribers at an unfair disadvantage. Amazon has not immediately responded to the lawsuit. The company has previously faced regulatory scrutiny in several countries over subscription practices, consumer rights, and other aspects of its online retail and digital services. Health authorities in Scotland have confirmed that a patient admitted to Glasgow's Queen Elizabeth University Hospital with suspected Ebola has tested negative for the virus. The result brought relief after precautionary measures were introduced to protect hospital staff, patients, and the wider public while laboratory testing was carried out. The patient was admitted to the hospital in the early hours of Tuesday, prompting public health officials to activate established infection control procedures because of concerns the illness could be linked to the ongoing Ebola outbreak in parts of Central and East Africa. Had the test been positive, it would have marked the United Kingdom's first confirmed Ebola case since the latest outbreak was declared in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda. Public Health Scotland stressed that the test was conducted purely as a precaution and confirmed there was no evidence the patient was infected with the Ebola virus. The current outbreak has already been designated a public health emergency of international concern by the World Health Organization, prompting countries to maintain heightened surveillance for potential imported cases. The incident also revived memories of Scotland's previous encounter with Ebola involving nurse Pauline Kakaaki, who contracted the disease after returning from Sierra Leone in 2014, before eventually recovering despite suffering serious complications. Our experience, including a later relapse and eventual return to normal family life, remains a reminder of both the dangers posed by Ebola and the importance of rapid detection, strict infection control measures, and timely medical intervention. Here in Nigeria, the Minister of Women Affairs, Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, has called for stronger networks and investments to increase women's participation in governance, business, and national development. She made the call at a women's leaders meeting in Abuja, which focused on strengthening women's leadership, political participation, and economic empowerment across the continent.
The role of women in shaping Africa's future dominated the discussion at this gathering organized by the United Nations Development Programme. The Minister of Women Affairs, Imam Suleiman Ibrahim, said, while progress has been made, gaps remain in women's representation in governance, diplomacy, industry, and innovation.
Our mission tonight is to strategize on how we can enhance the visibility of women as the primary catalyst for governance excellence, economic diversification, and peace building. Also, to forge a robust, enduring network that bridges the gap between government, the private sector, the civil society.
UNDP's Assistant Secretary General and Regional Director for Africa urged countries to create systems that allow women to lead transformation, highlighting initiatives supporting women in political leadership.
Representation matters because it strengthens democracy. Yet, representation, important as it is, remains only the beginning. The larger question is how leadership translates into transformation.
And we want to be able to make sure that they continue to deliver in working with government, civil society, development partners, and improve outcomes for vulnerable communities.
Stakeholders at the meeting agreed on the need for stronger partnerships, mentorship, and policies that will ensure women play a greater role in Africa's development. Keronojo Okoliko, AIT News, Abuja.
A state high court in Fuga, Etsako Central Local Government Area of Edo State under Justice Ovenserio Tamere has declared as valid the nomination process that produced Senator Francis Ali Mekena as the Okumagwe of Uwano Kingdom. And delivering the judgment on Wednesday, the judge, after citing several legal authorities, directed the leadership of the Etsako East local government to commence proceedings for the installation of a new king from Agiode ruling house. The judge described the communication, which was based on superior information from the state government, as credible enough to sustain the exercise. He further faulted what he called doublespeak in the subsequent directive by the secretary to the local government council, seeking to halt the process after earlier clearance had been given. Justice Otamere awarded the sum of 20,000 naira costs against the plaintiff. That's the world news on Kakaaki, the African Voice. Stay with us. We have more reports for you on Kakaaki Business.
Hello and welcome to Kakaaki Business. Britain's 10-year government bond yield have climbed back towards 4.8%, reversing recent decline. Stronger than expected United States labor market data fuels fresh expectation of further interest rate increase by the U.S. Federal Reserve. The rise followed the latest job opening and labor turnover survey, which shows vacancies in the United States reaching a 2-year high. Investors are also awaiting another strong U.S. non-farm payroll report, a development that could reinforce expectations of tighter monetary policy. In the United Kingdom, markets are also reacting to political developments with growing speculations that Energy Secretary Ed Miliband could emerge as the next Chancellor. Concerns over fiscal policy have eased after Prime Minister frontrunner Andy Bonham pledged to maintain fiscal discipline. Attention is also focused on the European Central Bank Annual Central Forum, where policymakers are discussing the outlook for inflation growth and interest rates across Europe. Meanwhile, Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey says the central bank will not rush into policy changes despite higher oil prices, maintaining that inflation remains on course to return to 2% target, although more slowly than previously expected. Away from that, global crude oil prices are falling below $69 per barrel, the lowest level since late February, as optimism grows over ongoing peace negotiations between the United States and Iran. Market sentiments improved after U.S. negotiators held what officials describe as constructive talks with Iranian representatives in Qatar. The discussions are aimed at easing tensions surrounding the strategically important Strait of Hormuz, a major route for global oil shipments. Shipping activities through the waterway is gradually recovering following recent military exchanges, although tanker movement remains below normal levels. Analysts say improved navigation has helped reduce fears of prolonged supply disruptions. Adding to downward pressure on prices, Iran crude oil exports have also surged beyond 40 million barrels following the removal of a U.S. naval blockade, while record Russian exports have contributed to rising global oil inventories. Despite the easing tension, Iran continues to insist on maintaining administrative control over the Strait of Hormuz, leaving traders closely monitoring diplomatic development for their impact on global energy markets. The World Bank will phase out development lending to China by 2031 under a new agreement that reflects the country's transformation into the world's second largest economy. According to sources familiar with the plan, the World Bank board is expected to review the new country partnership framework later this month. The arrangement will gradually reduce lending to a maximum of $2 billion before ending financial support entirely in 2031. World Bank lending to China has already declined significantly, dropping from $2.4 billion in 2017 to $750 million in 2025. World Bank officials say China has made remarkable development progress over the past several decades and has evolved from a borrowing nation into one of the institution's largest financial contributors. The decision also comes after years of pressure from the United States and other member countries, which have argued that China's economic strength no longer justifies continued access to World Bank development financing. In Nigeria, the World Bank has approved a fresh $1.25 billion financing package for Nigeria under the Nigerian Action for Investment and Jobs Acceleration Program. This is despite growing public concerns over the country's rising external debt. The approval comes alongside the launch of a new 6-year country partnership framework covering 2026 to 2032. The initiative is designed to support private sector-led growth, create jobs, and accelerate economic transformation. According to the World Bank, the program will expand electricity access to 32 million Nigerians, improve broadband connectivity for 58 million Nigerians, strengthen healthcare and nutrition services, and support over 9 million farmers through increased agricultural productivity. The institution says the framework will also focus on capital market reforms, digital economy regulation, electricity sector improvement, trade facilitation, and stronger domestic revenue mobilization to stimulate inclusive economic growth. However, the latest loan has renewed concerns over Nigeria's debt profile. Figures from the Debt Management Office show that the country's obligation to the World Bank rose from $17.8 billion in 2024 to nearly $20 billion by the end of 2025. And the federal government have set an ambitious target of generating 2.5 trillion naira in independent revenue in 2026 as part of effort to strengthen public finance and reduce revenue leakages. The acting chairman of the Fiscal Responsibility Commission, Charles Abana, announced the target during a meeting with Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, in Abuja. Abana disclosed that the Commission monitored approximately 1.84 trillion naira in independent revenue generated by ministries, departments, and agencies as of September 2025, providing the basis for the higher target. It said the Commission has intensified efforts to improve transparency in revenue reporting, ensure timely remittance of operating surpluses into the Consolidated Revenue Fund, and strengthen compliance with the Fiscal Responsibility Act. The Commission has also upgraded its operating surplus in calculation template to reflect current fiscal realities and the provision of the Finance Act 2020 as government continues its drive to boost non-oil revenue and improve fiscal discipline. And lastly, importers of high-engine vehicles are now facing a new environmental levy as the Nigerian Customs Service begin implementing the federal government green tax surcharge from July 1st. While the policy is designed to reduce carbon emissions and encourage the importation of cleaner vehicles, Customs says it has also cut vehicle import levies to soften the impact on businesses. With the green tax surcharge now officially in effect across Nigeria's part and border stations under the 2026 fiscal policy measures, under the new regime, imported smaller vehicles below 2,000 cc electric vehicles, mass transit buses, and qualifying locally manufactured vehicles are exempted. Import levies on brand new vehicles have now been cut from 20% to 10%, while the levy on used vehicles have been reduced from 15% to 5%. While the green tax marks a new chapter in Nigeria's import policy, one that seeks to balance environmental responsibility with trade facilitation, the real test, however, will be whether lower import levies are enough to offset the new surcharge without driving up the cost of vehicles for Nigerian consumers.
All right, thank you for staying with us on Kakaaki, the African Voice. That was the package on Kakaaki business, but we have a few more reports that we want to take a look at this morning as we go along on the program. Now, tensions are high in South Africa following the expiration of the deadline for undocumented foreigners to leave the country. Now, there have been protests, raids, and a stepped-up evacuation of Nigerians. And our diplomatic correspondent, Sadia Tosumo, looks at all of this in this special report. Let's take a look at it.
The latest wave of anti-immigrant unrest in South Africa escalated in the first half of 2026, with tensions building from April and intensified towards the 30th June deadline set by anti-immigrant groups. The Nigerian consulate in Johannesburg issued a safety advisory on April 22 with protests in East London, Cape Town, Durban, and KwaZulu-Natal turning violent, with looting, property damage and injuries reported between April 27 and 29. On May 3rd, 5 Ethiopian migrants were killed in xenophobic attacks in Johannesburg. Anti-foreigner demonstrations continued through May, with groups like Operation Dudula and March leading marches.
We want the law to be enacted urgently in order to reserve the township economy for just South Africans.
Though the different groups appear somewhat confused about expelling all migrants or just undocumented people, the protests intensified across multiple cities in June, with anti-immigrant groups setting June 30 as the deadline for migrants to leave. South African cities saw protests on June 30, the deadline issued by the anti-migrant groups. They demanded stricter enforcement of immigration laws, while migrant advocates called the protest and march against African migrants inhuman, seeking instead for regularization of all foreigners. Police were deployed in Johannesburg, Pretoria, and Durban. Though no major breakdown was reported, tensions remain high. The South African government could not get the anti-migrant groups to withdraw the deadline. This appeared to have given Taksit back into what authorities insisted was not an anti-foreigner measure, saying those with valid papers are not affected, but undocumented migrants must regularize or leave.
There have been weaknesses in the way migration has been managed in our country. I must make it clear that only the authorized government officials may act against violations of the law, including violations of our immigration laws. No other person is allowed, for example, to confront someone in the street, in the pathways of our country to demand proof of identity.
Compliance raids were confirmed in Gatong area, where the deadline was marred by reports of aggressive raids. Community leaders allege that a Nigerian trader died during the raid. The Nigerian mission says it is monitoring the case and engaging Victoria for facts.
Our citizens are being harassed. Our citizens, their properties are being looted. Criminal actions are perpetuated on our citizens. The police refuse to do anything. The South African government has not come out strongly, firmly enough to condemn these incidents.
In response, Abuja activated voluntary evacuation. A second Air Peace flight landed in Lagos at about 10:48 a.m. on June 30 with 269 Nigerians. That brings the total to 335 after 66 were evacuated from South Africa on June 24 via a South African Airways flight. Ambassador Haruna Ali Gombe received them on behalf of President Bola Tinubu and said more flights are expected. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs says diplomacy remains the focus. Abuja will continue high-level engagement with Victoria to protect Nigerians, demand due process in raids, and keep evacuation corridors open. With the expiration of the deadline, there are concerns about what will happen to Nigerians still trapped in South Africa who are willing to return home before the next evacuation flight arrives. The Nigerian government says its priority now is protecting its citizens abroad and accounting for every reported case of abuse. Sadiat Dusumu, AIT News, Abuja.
New wave of nationalism there, showing its face as xenophobia in South Africa, and of course every African government, every government of African countries are repatriating their citizens back home, of course, to ensure that no further loss of lives happen. But we have to wait and see how all of this turn out and what the South African government will do about the situation. Now let's look at something different, something economic now. And the Central Bank of Nigeria has revoked the operating licenses of 46 microfinance banks across the country in a move that's aimed at strengthening the nation's financial system and, of course, protecting depositors. The Apex Bank says the revocation, which takes effect from July 1, 2026, is the result of the failure of the affected institutions to meet regulatory requirements for continued operations.
In a statement signed by the Acting Director of Corporate Communication, CD Ali Akama, the CBN says the decision was approved by Governor in line with the provisions of the Bank and Other Financial Institution Act 2020. The affected institutions include Minjizi Churchill Microfinance Bank, Merchant Microfinance Bank, Jamma Microfinance Bank, Gold Microfinance Bank, Now Digital Microfinance Bank, Christabel Microfinance Bank, Channel Microfinance Bank, Abia SME Microfinance Bank, Windview Microfinance Bank, Stategate Microfinance Bank, Apple Microfinance Bank, Creditview Microfinance Bank, Mbag Microfinance Bank, Entrepreneur Microfinance Bank, Aventus Microfinance Bank, and 31 others spread across Lagos, Kano, Abuja, Rivers, Abia, Ogun, Kebbi, Plateau, Kaduna, Benue, Delta, Oyo, Cross River, Akwa Ibom, Anambra, and Osun State. According to the CBN, the banks fill one or more key regulatory conditions, including maintaining adequate capital, not meeting financial obligations, commencing operation within stipulated period, sustaining active financial intermediation, and in some cases, continue operation without regulatory approval. The Apex Bank says the revocation is part of ongoing effort to safeguard financial stability, protect depositors, and ensure that licensed financial institutions comply with existing laws and regulatory standards. It adds that it remains committed to maintaining a safe, sound, and resilient financial system through effective supervision and enforcement. Landry Balola, AIT News, Abuja.
Okay, tightening the news there for microfinance banks that have not complied with regulatory requirements, and they have now been kicked out of business. Let's hope that Nigerians, depositors, and of course people looking for capital for their business will have a better deal now. Okay, let's talk about the fight against insecurity now. And the Defense Headquarters has been speaking about its operations in the second quarter of 2026, saying that troops of Operation Hardin Kai neutralized 485 terrorists, apprehended 370 suspects, and rescued 595 kidnapped victims during its operations in the Northeast. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Michael Onoja, disclosed this while speaking to journalists on the activities of the armed forces during the second quarter of 2026. Let's look at the report too.
Onoja explained that the troops sustained coordinated land and air offensive intelligence-led operations and targeted raids that significantly degraded the operational capabilities of Boko Haram, ISWAP, and other criminal elements across Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe State.
The operational record for the month of June, as well as the second quarter of this year, stands as compelling testimony to the sustained professionalism, operational excellence, and unwavering resolve of troops of the armed forces across all the operational theaters.
He described the achievements as evidence of the military's commitment to restoring peace and stability.
General Oluyede reassures the Nigerian public and the international community that the Defense Headquarters will sustain and intensify its operational tempo against all threats to national security until every theater is stabilized, displaced persons are able to return to their homes, and every Nigerian can live in freedom, safety, and dignity.
Onoja reaffirmed the commitment of the armed forces to sustaining offensive operations until terrorism and other security threats were decisively defeated across the country. Dimas Nanzeng, AIT News, Abuja.
All right, looking at those reports there, of course, talking about what the Defense Headquarters has been speaking on concerning the second quarters and the activities of the armed forces, how well they've worked during the second quarter of 2026. From there, we'll move on to our social intervention segments, but don't forget that at 7 o'clock, it will be time for the newspaper review.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Hello everyone and welcome to Get Fit in 60 Seconds with Dolly Phillips. Now everyone has 60 seconds in every day to spare. So if you're ready, let's go! Hey, hey, hey! Another interesting workout today is 180 jump squats. You're gonna have fun with this one. Are you ready? And your time starts now. Let's go. Hey! Hey, drop it low, like it's hot. Hey, hey, drop it low, like it's hot. Hey, come on. Don't stop. Now, if you can't jump, just turn. If you can't jump, just turn. But if you can, hey, have fun with this one. Love it. Make sure you're breathing. Don't ever hold your breath. 30 seconds left. Oh, I think it's 20 actually. Thank God. Come on. Slowly. Coming down to 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and time. Super job. Well done! I hope you had a great workout. Anyway, what I need you to do is to follow us on Instagram at Alpha Fitness Studios and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Alpha Fitness Studios, for free workout videos, free dance videos, sales and promos, and make sure you join us at the gym, Alpha Fitness Studios in Lekki Phase 1 next time you're in Lagos. So until the next time, bye-bye!
Hello, great people of Nigeria. Welcome to the Leadership Clinic. Today, I'm speaking on discovering your own personal morning routine. How you start your morning determines how you live your day. Leaders don't stumble into their day. You know what they do? They design it. They win the morning, and the morning wins the day. What does a winning morning look like? Let me describe it for you. First thing first is that you wake up at a consistent time. Imagine waking up at a particular time. Every morning you are waking up same time. Your body thrives on rhythm. Pick up a time and stick to it. Even on weekends. Second, avoid your phone for the first 30 minutes. And a lot of us wake up first thing in the morning, including some of us. What do? We pick up our phones first. It's a challenge that we're dealing with. But the truth of the matter is that we can, the next 30 minutes as we're waking up, keep our phone, don't even touch it. Don't let other people's priorities hijack your focus, because you have even gotten out of bed. Imagine if you pick up your phone and the next thing you see is bad news, negative news. And at the end of the day, sometimes you go on and on and on and on and on and on. And at the end of the day, what do? We don't have the capacity to serve agenda that we really want to set for the day. The third thing that we do is that we must feed our mind after our prayers or our exercise, or we must read a journal or do something that is significant. The interesting thing is that the more we begin to focus on building something significant about the day, getting into the study, pushing ourselves beyond the limit, going through the page of the books, or whatever it is, and then of course realizing that it's important to spend time thinking about what the day is going to look like, which means that you must operate from your thinking spot at every point in time. Every leader that has been able to build significant results where it's the type of leader that wakes up in the morning and prioritizes thinking. And the interesting thing is that if you make up your mind today that nothing is urgent, that you choose to prioritize your day by choice, and once you are able to do that, then you can control your money, then you can control your day, and then you can control your life. Most successful people that I know, they have learned these secrets. The secrets of ensuring that we design our day, and then we begin to execute the priorities of what we want to see our day look like. The moment you're able to do that, then you can build a sustainable day that works. And each sustainable day that works is a prerequisite for the success that will come our way. Great people of Nigeria, you must remember, if a man doesn't have a purpose of waking up, sleeping becomes interesting.
Have you ever wondered why some parents dress up in the presence of their children? Even if a child doesn't show any such interest, family nudity could become a problem by age 3, when it's believed that some children unconsciously become sexually stimulated by parental nudity and are confused and embarrassed by these feelings. So it's probably best to start donning wardrobes and segregating showers by a toddler's 3rd birthday. You can explain such a change by saying, now that you're older, you need to have some privacy, and so do I. Honestly, that's my 2 kobo.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Get ready for a bold new chapter in political discourse. The conversations that matter most are stepping into the spotlight like never before. Political platform, the hard-hitting, no-holds-barred program you have trusted on Ray Power Radio is making a powerful move to television. Tune in to Africa Independent Television, AIT, as political platform debuts on your screen, bringing deeper analysis, sharper debates, and the voices shaping our nation's future right into your screens. From policy and politics breakdowns to real-time discussions with key stakeholders, this is more than a program. It is where opinions are tested, truths are uncovered, and the people's voice is heard. Join seasoned hosts and expert guests as they tackle the issues that define our democracy. No filters, no distractions, just real talk. Political platform now on AIT, 9 to 10 a.m. every weekday. Stay informed, stay engaged, be part of the conversation.
The issues as they break, the multitude, the political figures, the state and non-state actors.
It's a serious threat to democracy, and our government seem to be incapable of protecting
the scheming.
This is not a period we should sit back and go. Every part of this country is equal.
The intrigues.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection. I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe in godfatherism in politics.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacency?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time. Where laws are forged and a nation's destiny is decided.
This is your parliamentary program, Inside the Parliament on AIT.
Voices rise, opinions clash, debates ignite.
We cannot be apologetic in the discharge of our constitutional duties as lawmakers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The burden of proving that the elections have been conducted peacefully and in accordance.
All right, thank you for staying with us, Kakaaki, the African Voice, this Thursday morning, going into the top of the first hour, and of course, time for the newspaper review this morning, and that favorite time where we look at the headlines on the front pages of Nigerian newspapers. And my reviewers are here with me already because, you know, we don't do it all by ourselves. We always have reviewers in the house. I have Chizobo Ogbeche here with me. She is the deputy editor of the Blueprint newspaper. She's joined by Chuks Akunna, who is executive director of Authority newspaper. Good morning, lady and gentlemen.
Good morning.
There was an argument yesterday somewhere whether there were ladies in the profession or not.
Please, there are ladies.
Oh, really? All right. Lady and gentlemen of the press, welcome to the newspaper review. All right, let's quickly look at what the papers have for us this morning, and we begin from the Leadership newspaper, which leads with the story. CBN's revocation of 46 licenses cuts microfinance banks to 785. CBN's revocation of 46 licenses cuts microfinance banks to 785. And the writer says NDIC begins takeover, verification, payment of insured sums to depositors. Moving on from there, we go to the Whistler. Its own lead story says, Nigeria's true fiscal deficit bigger than reported, IMF says. That story is on page 10. It has writers too. The writers say, blames off-budget expenditure for statistical gap, says unreported expenditure equals 2% of GDP. Also at the bottom of the page, you see that story there too. CBN shuts down 46 microfinance banks. Let's go now to The Guardian. Its own story goes this way, the lead story, that is, goes this way. Nigerians hopeful of lower prices, relief as FG slashes tariffs. You'll find details of that on page 6 of The Guardian. Now looking at the Business NG, we also find talk of slashing of tariffs and all of that. FG slashes vehicle import levies. New cars down from 20% to 10%. Used cars from 15% to 5%. That story flows from the front page of the Business NG and goes to continue on page 2. All right, let's look at the Daily Independent now. What does the Daily Independent lead with? It leads with the story. Unified FX regime stabilizing public finances. FG claims, and the writer says it is helping states unlock, deploy resources. Let's go now to the Daily Asset. Presidency clears Gbajabiamila in 27.4 billion naira bribery allegation. That is how the paper leads this morning. And the writer says, labels accuser impostor running fictitious agency. Police uncover 34 bank accounts, alleged forged documents. Go to page 2 of that paper for the details. Also at the bottom of the page, you see suspected armed herders again attack Benue community, kill 10. Now let's go to the gwg.ng. Its own lead story says, Presidency backs Gbajabiamila, explains how government, public were scammed. That story flows from page 1 to page 2 of the paper. And let's look at the Daily Trust. Its own story says, Phantom Council. Presidency clears Gbajabiamila amid concerns. You read up on that from the front page through pages 3 and 4 of the Daily Trust this morning. Gbajabiamila, 600 million naira bribe not true. Presidency. That's the Al Jazeera Nigeria lead story this morning. And the writers says accuser peddling lies. Chief of Staff does not make appointments. All right, let's go to the Nigerian Pilot now. In its trademark red headline, Benue orders manhunt. As bandits attack Sai community in Katsina local government area, killing over 10 residents. Directs prompt security deployment to forestall further attacks. That's the top story on the front page of the Nigerian Pilot this morning. Let's go to the Daily Sun. Eligible voters now to download PVCs online. Eligible voters now to download PVCs online. That's the Daily Sun coming for you there, with the writer saying INEC says full online registration available. Also, election timetable dispute. Court reserves judgment in Commission's appeal. The Vanguard. That's where we're going next. Its top story says why APC ditched SUSWAM, 25 National Assembly candidates. SUSWAM was sacrificed to please Akume, sources being quoted there, and party moves to resolve tickets crises. That's the top story there. Looking at the Observer's Times now. Its top story says Tinubu bars non-indigens from high-risk NYSC postings, and with the writer saying personal parade replaced with graduation ceremony as program shifts to skills acquisition. All right, let's go to the Daily Global now. You ended era of abandoned roads in FCT. Tinubu hails Wike. That's high praise indeed from the president to the minister of the FCT. Now let's go look at another paper now, looking at, I think I missed one earlier on, but then that's This Nigeria. CBN hammer falls on 46 microfinance banks. Licenses withdrawn over regulatory breaches. You'll find details on page 14 of the paper. And of course, the Standard Times is the next paper we have. That one also has the headline, CBN revokes operating licenses of 46 microfinance banks. The Daily Monitor now, CBN revokes licenses of 46 microfinance banks. That's also the top story on the front page of the Daily Monitor. And now let's go look at what the Nigeria News Direct has. It leads with the story, CBN revokes licenses of 46 microfinance banks as NDIC commences liquidation verification of insured sums. All right, that's I think that's the last paper we have for you this morning. Time now for us to take a look at, or let me say, hear what our reviewers have to say about this. What is the backstory to all of these headlines this morning? And the first talking point, I'm starting from you, Chizoba, is about the hammer of the CBN falling on 46 microfinance banks. This Nigeria, Standard Times, Daily Monitor, Nigeria News Direct, all of them have it this morning. So what does this mean for the financial sector?
It actually means, I will not talk about just for the people who are also investing their trust in these banks. It means it goes to show that the era of losing your money invested in a bank is over, because CBN is obviously providing the needed oversight that any bank, whether microfinance, commercial, that is not viable is taken down. And a rider in one of the banks said the commission is already, NDIC.
It's already beginning verification.
Yes,
and,
so which means that anybody whose money is invested there stands a very good chance of getting back their investment. Because I think we cannot remember what happened during the era of Savannah Bank. I'm saying in particular because a lot of people, because a lot of people in the southeast did not survive it, have not overcome the trauma, because then it was like a southeastern bank, and a lot of them invested there. Until date, nothing came of it. So it's a welcome development, and it means that if you must do business, you play by the rules.
Chooks, one of the problems of the Nigerian economy has been regulation, and the CBN is up in the ante now. What do you think? Because I'm not just looking at it from investors' perspectives. I'm also looking at it from the point of view that people who want to do small businesses and want to go to these microfinance banks to take those soft loans that will enable them start something small. they might be the ones who are benefiting because they will now have stronger, more viable microfinance banks. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. And for those who, if you hear what people talk about Cardoso, the CBN governor, you know, he's a very, he's as clean as a whistle. He's a very serious person. You know, he's not somebody you go to me to say, please, let's do this. It wasn't, from what I heard about him. And you know, the problem people want to compare Nigeria and other countries. You know, it's the same human beings. Human beings all over the world want to break the rules. Breach the laws. But then you ask yourself, if there are no consequences, it's like when we were in school, we did a course called crime and punishment. If there's no punishment for crime, you see people committing the same crime, you know, in fact, with impunity. And like Chidova spoke about Savannah Bank. I remember very well that bank. And it was.
Did you invest? Did you invest money in it?
No. But I knew people who did that, and because you see, it wasn't only Savannah Bank. There are a lot of banks at the time that people just stand down. Just like we have in real estate in Abuja, for instance. I don't know about Lagos. People just set up. People go and clear bushes and put big signboards. Get unsuspecting youths. Give them beautiful flyers. Erect big signboards and say that they are the number one numero uno in real estate. People go to subscribe, and before you know it, they lose their monies. And there's only, except now that the EFCC has a special arm to help people, get their money. I was a victim of that scam. And I was very impressed because. Even though I have a personal relationship with the EFCC chairman, I didn't tell him, I want to put that to test. I wrote the EFCC, and not the chairman, I just wrote the EFCC. I was called a few weeks later to come endorse the petition. I did that. And I never knew that they even have an office, the EFCC, they have an office in the FCDA. They have a special dedicated office for land scams inside the FCDA. Yes, inside the FCDA. So you don't have to say, well, one go Lagos. This is where we'll sort it out. So, and a lot of people, the EFCC has helped me a lot of people. I recover my money, 100%. Because... So, what I'm saying now is that in all regulatory situations, if the regulator is not alive to its responsibility, the people suffer. So, but it's a good thing. It shows that, like when Soludo was the CBN governor, he spoke about recapitalization. That was 25 billion. A lot of people felt that, he was being too hard on the banks at the time. He said, no, but you either conform or you fall out, So, and we've been better for that. Oh, yeah. We've been very much. Insurance companies, too, came up with insurance companies. Because it's a family. Most people used to set up these businesses as a family business. Then they appoint, and if there's no regulation, we've seen several banks. We've seen Diamond Bank go underground. We've seen, what's the name of this bank? Sky Bank go underground. Because it's the failure of the regulator that makes this, and when they go underground, they put a lot of pressure on the NDIC. Sometimes it becomes very difficult because it's not, you see, if I have like 10 million and I want to invest that in a business and the bank goes under suddenly, yes, I'm going to recover my 10 million, but it takes time. And maybe by the time I recover that money,
the value of the 10 million is
not
not
even the value, even the zeal to do that.
The zeal to do business is gone.
Yeah, it's gone. So it's a very good one coming from the CBN, and other agencies too that are regulatory. We have JAM, we have we have many. We have NAFDAC. They are also being alive to their responsibility.
Oh, sure, yes. Of course.
There's also a caveat to say insured sums to depositors. So expectation is, like you talked about regulation, that every money deposited there was covered. Yeah. Because if we're already starting with insured sum, quotation mark, it means that if there was part of the lapses in the microfinance bank is that probably the money was not insured, then it means that there is also a problem. So expectation is that everybody who deposited money there will get their money back, like Chuk said he got all his money back.
Okay. All right, let's look at another headline here. Presidency clears Gbajabiamila in 27.4 billion naira bribery scandal. Daily Asset, GWGND, Daily Times, Al Jazeera all have that story. Chooks, this is I was reading about this on online yesterday, and the story is just so out there about this huge bribery scandal that has now been outed as a huge scam by a man who has been alleged to be one of the best scammers ever, who even had meetings with diplomats.
Yes.
And legislators.
Yes, particularly in Abuja, a lot of things happen. You know, you go to public places, you see a lot of people with very expensive cars, you know, with Italian Zana suits, and you don't know what they do for a living. You know, they go to social events, they take photographs with the high and mighty in Nigeria, and they use those photographs to scam unsuspecting Nigerians, you know, because most times these people are always having problems. You say, no, this man, you want to get to the CBN governor, you want to get to the, what they call the chief of army staff, you want to get to the IG, you know, I have links, you know, because people have myriad of problems. So, you know, when you see somebody who approaches you with a very good car, and, you know.
It doesn't look hungry.
It doesn't look hungry, that's the word. You know, you fall for it. And, I mean, we're in this country when somebody sold the airport to Brazilians. It was in the same country that it happened. So but you see, like the proverbial bird that has learned to, I mean, when you say you're flying without perching, they also shoot. You know, they keep shooting. The law enforcement agencies are also on top of their game because they also know how smart Alex in this country operate. So that's why, like when my dad was alive, my late dad, you know, he will come sometime and tell me that, oh no, that because he was a land business. So he said, no, that this governor is going to buy 50 hectares of land tomorrow. And I think I said, the fact that you know that this governor wants to buy 50 hectares of land shows that it's a scam. Because he was that.
If I may comment, please. Can I?
Please go ahead.
Please, I think I'll rather err on the side of caution because there's a headline that said amid concerns. This story has raised a lot of concerns and Nigerians are voicing it. There are a lot of issues. The council, Foreign Investment Promotion Council, which sounds like a lobby agency, is said to have been provided in the budget. It's said to have an office at the Federal Secretariat because it's a meeting with ambassadors. It's said to have had correspondence between the agency or the alleged or said agency and the National Assembly. There are quite a lot of.
In fact, one online paper published pictures of the man with the EFCC chairman.
Yes, and yes, said to have visited the EFCC. He said to have done a lot of things, and like they say, innocent until proven guilty. There's also the question of, just talked about flying without perching and shooting without stopping. This case was said to have been taken to court in November, but the hearing is coming July. You want to ask what happened between, at the point of filing a case means that your investigation is done.
It's complete. Yeah.
What transpired between this period, November 2025 to July 2026? There are a lot of questions that are begging for answers. And one begins to wonder, if somebody could get away, how do you get an office in Federal Secretariat? Can I just walk in and take up an office? Did he have staff? There are a lot of questions that need to be answered. Are we looking at a situation where more agencies like this will come up? And particularly the fact that it was budgeted for in the 2026 budget. There are questions that probably in the course of the
trial
will be
will
answered.
be raised
So for
up.
me, like I said, I err on the side of caution. I will not say he's wrong. Yes, the presidency has done what it owes his staff, but in the course of the trial, like they say, on he who asserts lies the onus of proof.
Of proof, yeah. He who alleges must prove. At Solemn Foods, one of our viewers now is reviewing the papers with us this morning. He says on the Gbaja issue, how did this so-called fictitious agency get budgeted for? How did they open a CBN account?
Yes.
To open ordinary savings account in Nigeria today is not beans. How are they need to take open them? That was the question that Solemn Foods, at Solemn_Foods, is asking this morning. And these are critical questions, like you said, Chizoba, that probably will be answered in the course of the trial. So let's move on and time is so when we're doing this, time just flies.
It takes about 10 minutes to even introduce the headlines.
All right, let's look at the Daily Sun's headline: eligible voters now to download PVCs online. Chizoba, a lot of people have found it difficult to register for PVCs. First you have to start online, and then you have to go to a registration center to complete your registration and all of that. And this headline is saying something new now.
And especially since we are looking at younger people voting, it's an incentive, because we've been talking about voter apathy aside other issues, the cumbersome process of even as early as 6:30 that we were living in front of INEC. You see a lot, and it's drizzling. A lot of them are waiting because the window for registration is shutting down, I think, 10th of this month. So you find that people are trying. I've tried it out, and it actually opened. So I just hope that the problems we have sometimes with internet, and that people will not use it to extort others. Because you know the issue of jump. If you go to a cyber cafe, are they selling cards, scratch card, and all of that? What's the processes? Probably we'll get to know. So that you don't open business for people like they will say on top of our head. But it's a welcome development. I pray it works smoothly.
Chooks, Chizoba is hoping that there's no rat hiding somewhere in this, because some of the time when you are asked to do things online, you get to a particular point and you can't proceed further until you have to go to the office of that particular agency where somebody may have mounted a checkpoint of sorts, or a toll point of sorts, and you have to.
I know. You know, all this is digital issues. When they start, you have challenges, like you mentioned, JAMB. JAMB is nearly 100%. I can say 100% foolproof now, because you know when you start these things, even you remember when banks are doing online, a lot of people didn't trust the system. They said, how do you entrust your body? So even till date, some people don't even do online banking.
No, yeah.
They say no, they don't trust. You know, they want to write their checks. Like I spoke about a certain general who's my friend. He writes 15, 20 checks a day. He said he's old school. He wants to remain. He wants to remain old school.
Whatever rocks your boat, or floats your boat, rather.
No, I remember even things like subscribing to cable TV. You know, those days when I was in Oka, you know, somebody had to pay him. Even internet. When I was working for Andy Uba, I needed to subscribe. We only had one ISP in Ibadan. You had to pay 13.5. You know, it was a modem, it was a stick. You paid 13.5. Then you scanned the teller to the bank. We are going too far. When I was working with This Day, and my brother was in Ilorin, they didn't have a branch. GT didn't have a branch in Ilorin. He was going to Ibadan to collect money. I would send money to my parents. My brother would.
He would go to Ibadan?
Yes, because my salary account was GT. In this country, there was a time.
No, please don't mention the bank.
No. What I'm saying is
because you're literally advertising for them.
No, but the issue is that even time was in this country in the early 2000s. You had a branch of a bank in Area 1, and you went to Area 2. You couldn't do anything. You just had to go to that bank.
Oh yeah, they'll tell you go to Area 1.
Where your account is domiciled.
Where is domiciled? Because they had to, you know, it was manual. But now a lot of things are, now you can buy, you remember, a lot of people made money selling recharge cards. You remember?
Who still sells recharge cards?
No, they don't anymore.
No, they do. They do, but very low denomination. And on paper. You don't have vendors who do that because the cost of printing those cards. You remember those days? The cost of printing.
It's more expensive to print those cards than to recharge.
Exactly. So a lot of things. I'm sure we'll get there. Because I've seen a lot of things happen.
The world has gone entirely digital.
I was telling somebody last week that all of you just go and buy battery and put in your car and start. Those days, if you are going to travel tomorrow, you have to buy battery today. Then the charger will put acid
and charge it overnight for you when you bought a new battery. That was in the 70s and the 80s.
Up the 80s. Then you had your car. Each tire had its tube. You must buy tube and tire. Tube and tire.
Tube and tire.
Nobody does that anymore.
Well, in the early 90s when tubeless tires came, it was something that people didn't even believe in.
It was marveling. If I had to quarrel with my vulcanizer, I said, "Where's my tube?" He said, "No, get you." I said, "What do you mean by that? What do you mean?" So, constant thing in life is change.
Yeah, change.
So always, I foresee a day where we just, from the comfort of our homes, we'll cast our ballots.
We should be able to do that.
Yes.
Hopefully so.
Nigerians in diaspora can vote.
And Nigerians abroad can vote.
It's not
talking about change. Let's look at some changes that the government is putting in place now. Business NG has that story. FG slashes vehicle imports levies. New cars down from 20% to 10%. Used cars from 15% to 5%. Chizoba, the way Chizoba is giggling, it's like you have a car business somewhere.
In fact, a friend of mine, a journalist, like us last night, told me that he bought a car in the US. I was thinking, you don't help for him to ship it because of the cost of importation. I think it's welcome development because I tell people that when you make life difficult for people want to devise means to beat the system. Because if you to discourage smuggling, if you reduce the tariff, people want to risk driving their car through the bushes of Barutin to come into when you can just go and pay. If it's 5%, you buy a car of 10 million, you're paying 5% duty. You just go there and pay. But when they made it difficult, if not impossible and I'm sure a lot of customs officers will not be happy with this.
Why?
No.
Why not?
No.
The tariff is not going to them.
No, they say, what do they call this thing? Anadiroma Udundize. When people
say that in English.
That when things are not good.
It's the chiefs, it's the elders that benefit. When people run foul of the law. Because if everybody clear their goods legally, there won't be issue of seized containers and all those things. And it's from those seized containers that these custom officers, they settle themselves. And
you are accusing
allegedly
corruption.
No, but
on live TV.
No. But they auction these things.
Allegedly.
I know that they auction these things.
No. An auction is a legal
importation.
If they don't auction these things,
they'll
keep them.
No, they'll pile up. But when it's an auction in this town, in this part of the world, you know what auction is.
That's still corruption.
I don't know. Chooks, I don't.
That's an allegation of corruption.
Chooks, I don't know. I don't know what you mean. But Chizoba, the way you laughed when I cited that headline.
No,
it means you have something.
And look at cooking gas. Cooking gas price drops to 1,100. It's also very good. You see there. Is there?
Okay.
No, once the hurdles business persons and individuals encounter are removed, is a welcome development. You know why I chuckled? A colleague of ours recently bought just a Camry for 14 million. The same car that at some point was sold 350, 650. And it seemed unrealistic to me. But when I asked more questions, it was about the issue of difficulty in importing and the tariff.
The tariff, yeah.
So it's a welcome, because a lot of people can't actually even think of buying cars. How many of us, even as a journalist, I told him he's a bourgeois, to buy a car for 14 million.
He must be a very, very, very well-to-do journalist.
So, that's why I chuckled, because is an improvement, and we hope it gets better.
It's something that
makes it
over
more
time,
affordable. Yeah, it makes it more
people will come to commend government for, because I imagine a car that one of my colleagues here bought for ₦1 million some years ago sells for like 7.58 million today. And you're asking yourself, how are we supposed to be able to replace the old ones that we have, especially as these are used cars?
And that's why it's
and you have an agency that is enforcing roadworthiness.
Exactly, and all of that.
No, it's on paper. They don't do any. It's on paper.
All right, we must go now. Thank you very much, lady and gentlemen of the press. Chizoba Ogbeche, deputy editor of the Blueprint newspaper, and Chukwutakuna, executive director of the Authority newspaper, have been my reviewers this morning, and of course, we've had a rollicking time doing the business this morning. Thank you once again.
Thank you for having us. Good morning.
Have a great day.
You too, then.
All right. Stay with us. We'll be back right after this break to start with our very first conversation.
The issues as they break. The multitude, the political figures, the state and non-state actors.
It's a serious threat to democracy. And our government seem to be incapable of protecting.
The scheming.
This is not a period we should say bow and go.
Every part of this country is equal.
The intrigues.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection. I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe we go for that reason in politics.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacency?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time.
Get ready for a bold new chapter in political discourse. The conversations that matter most are stepping into the spotlight like never before. Political platform, the hard-hitting, no-holds-barred program you have trusted on Raypower Radio is making a powerful move to television. Tune in to Africa Independent Television, AIT, as political platform debuts on your screen, bringing deeper analysis, sharper debates, and the voices shaping our nation's future right into your screens. From policy and politics breakdowns to real-time discussions with key stakeholders, this is more than a program. It is where opinions are tested, truths are uncovered, and the people's voice is heard. Join seasoned hosts and expert guests as they tackle the issues that define our democracy. No filters, no distractions, just real talk. Political platform now on AIT, 9 to 10 a.m. every weekday. Stay informed, stay engaged, be part of the conversation.
The issues as they break. The multitude, the political figures, the state and non-state actors.
It's a serious threat to democracy. And our government seem to be incapable of protecting.
The scheming.
This is not a period we should say bow and go.
Every part of this country is equal.
The intrigues.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection. I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe we go for that reason in politics.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacency?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time.
You're still watching Kakaaki, the African Voice, this Thursday morning, and time for us to go into our very first conversation, like I did tell you. As I drove out of my area, my home my estate this morning. It was drizzling, and that tells you something. It is that time of the year when it rains, and it does rain heavily, especially here in the tropics. And both the the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, and the National Emergency Management Agency have raised a series of alerts and flood warnings, especially for 33 states and the Federal Capital Territory, talking about the possibility of flooding, which could inflict very serious damage. If you've been taking a look at what's going on social media in the last 3-4 days, you probably would have seen videos of flooding in Lagos and, of course, in parts of Accra, which is the capital of Ghana. So we will talk about planning for the rain this morning on the program, looking at how to plan for the rainy season, how to avoid devastation of our properties and even lives by flooding. My guests this morning, I have in the studio Godwin Tepiko, who is Director of Planning, Research and Marketing at the National Emergency Management Agency. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
All right. We also have joining us virtually Titi Lokpe Akosa. Titi Lokpe is Environment Advanced Executive Director, 21st Century Issues, Nigeria. Morning, Titi Lokwe. Okay, now you are wearing your headphones. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me too?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. Good morning. All right.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. Now, let me start from you, Godwin. 33 states and the FCT, they are at the risk of flood this 2026. And in the past, we've seen these kinds of flooding, when they happen, they are so devastating that sometimes people can't even travel from one part of the FCT or from one state to the other across the country. Homes are destroyed, crops are destroyed, lives are lost. So what should Nigerians expect this season, because the rains have come now?
Okay, thank you for having me. First, I'm the Director of Planning and Research and Forecasting of the National Emergency Management Agency, and not marketing.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Forecasting.
Forecasting, yes.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, so at the National Emergency Management Agency, we are fortunate to have a Director General who has been very proactive. Like your intro, the 33 states and the FCT, before then, this prediction came out in April. But as far back as February, when NIMET came out with the prediction, the National Emergency Management Agency has been proactive in terms of rolling out its preparedness plan. And the preparedness plan of the agency is hinged on 4 key areas.
Okay.
Early warning, early action, stakeholder coordination, and community engagement. Responding to your question, at that point, we started engaging with our stakeholders. Recall that the National Emergency Management Agency, the sole responsibility or function of that agency is coordination. So we invited our stakeholders in what a forum we refer to as expert technical meeting, where all the stakeholders, including the MDS, were invited to our office in Abuja to look at the implication of these predictions. And in doing that, we came up with the Disaster Management Preparedness and Mitigation Strategy, which is a document I have here, about what Nigerians are supposed to do, especially with regard to those communities that have been predicted to suffer from this flooding. And we also informed the governors, the state emergency management agencies, and even the FCT minister about this prediction and what they are supposed to do to help to mitigate the impact of this 2026 flood prediction. And arising from that, we try to strengthen our emergency coordination forum, because disaster management is a whole society approach that we adopt. Everybody has a role to play. So we try to strengthen that emergency coordination forum, and from there too, we decided to downscale these predictions. You know that NEMA has 23 offices spread across the country. We have 17 operations offices. We have 6 directorates. So we took these messages of the prediction across the country to the grassroots. Our DG in Adamawa flagged off the first downscaling program. We refer to as National Preparedness and Response Campaign. As I speak, this exercise has been ongoing. The idea is to engage these communities, as to what roles they have to play, in mitigating the impact of the disaster. So you have seen what has happened in Lagos and in Accra, like you pointed out, is that there has been no conscious effort, to try to prepare and mitigate the impact of disaster. And that responsibility squarely lies with the subnationals, the states and the local government areas, because these disasters are local. They happen in local communities. So if the subnationals, the state emergency management and local emergency management committees are strengthened, it is they that have a duty to perform to ensure that, one, citizens don't continue to use the drains, the waters as receptacle. Because the practice in Nigeria is, as soon as there's rainfall, people try to open their drains and begin to dispose their waste. And this waste, they clog the drains and water system, resulting to flooding. And one other thing too that I think is responsible is impermeable surfaces. The prediction also made the point that some cities will suffer from urban flooding. And exactly what has happened in Lagos is urban and flash flooding. Because of these impervious surfaces, a lot of the surfaces are paved. The drainage systems are not smart enough. They are clogged. And we continue to advocate that there is a need to continue to engage the practice of nature-based solutions, making surfaces permeable so that it can take as much volume of water as possible. And also that citizens should be discouraged from throwing garbage into the drains. I'm aware that Lagos State Emergency Management Agency continues to carry out monthly sanitation exercises. So they should continue in that path to ensure that the effect of this year's flooding.
Let me ask you to hold on and let's go talk to Titi Lope now. And I'm sure she's listened to you with rapt attention. But one critical issue is that we hear of these warnings year in, year out, and we still have flooding. Is it that government doesn't do enough, or that people simply ignore these warnings?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for having me this morning. One thing we must really understand is that the foundations of our planning, physical planning, is a bit faulty. We must accept that. And if the foundations of our physical planning is faulty, we must fix it. Apart from the fact that some of the states that are implicated in flooding, we see that it has been forecasted. Of course, the NEMA official there has given us a good information about their preparedness. See, you cannot continue to do the same thing year in, year out and expect that you have a different outcome. We've been doing this year in, year out. Okay. Did we actually look at the roots of the problems? One of them, like I said, is the kind of planning, physical planning we have in our states. That is one. The issues of our drainages, apart from the fact that people are clogging drainages with their waste, the drainages themselves, are they there? Are they well constructed? We have been hearing about climate change for years. Are these drainages climate smart? Our infrastructure climate smart? Are these things, are we looking at them? You see, we can continue to deal with the symptoms. We can continue to deal with the symptoms without really going to the root of the problem. Then we'll continue to have the same thing year in, year out. In 2012, we had the worst floods in Nigeria. And in 2022, we have another terrible one. And now we're having another one. Ask yourself, what are we doing wrong? For instance, some of the reasons why we're having this flooding, apart from climate change, we've also had that there will be release of water from some of these dams.
Yes.
Of course, when the water is released, what have we done about those dams? Have we actually ascertained the integrity of those dams? Some years back, I think 2 years ago, the federal government set up a committee, or I think a task force, or a technical committee, to look at these dams. Still today, we don't even know what the reports are. We don't know what the interventions are. I think we should really go to the root of this problem. In Lagos, before all this flooding, I remember that the commissioner started destroying houses that were built on drainages. But then, who accounts for reclamations that we have done, pushing the sea forward? There are a lot of reclamations. There is a lot of sand mining in Lagos. Of course, there is a whole lot of terrible activities that is actually causing more damage. And we also know that some parts of Lagos are below sea level. Look at the whole of Lekki. We know year in, year out, Lekki will be flooded. Those areas are below the sea level. What have we done? What engineering solutions have we brought onto the table? These are questions we need to have government, and we need to hold them accountable. So we need to do things differently. Apart from sounding alerts, apart from forecasting, states need to take responsibilities. How do you deal with your planning in your state? What are the activities you know will continue to cause flooding? Even if the rains are not heavier, places are being flooded. There are places all over the world that they've found solutions. Can we learn from them? Can we see what they have done and see whether it's going to work for us? We need to sit down and see. It's good for us to say we are sounding alerts. I remember, I think about 2 days ago, the governor of Lagos State was saying that people who are living in floodplains should relocate. Where do you want them to relocate? People who are being dealt with by poverty, who don't have money to rent houses. See, we need to ask ourselves, where do you want them to go?
Okay.
Is there any other alternative place for them to relocate to? We need to ask this question to our government. And they need to give us answers.
I think you've just asked the questions that I believe that Godwin here can attempt to answer, because he's Director of Planning, Research and Forecasting at NEMA. And I think this is one of the things that you probably will be talking to your counterparts in the state emergency management agencies about, which, of course, they will relate to their own state, to their own colleagues in the state government administrations across the country. Because Titi Lokbe has raised very vital issues. When I was growing up, there was a small office beside, not quite 500 meters from my house, called the Town Planning Office. But today, when you see developments across towns and cities, you tend to ask the question, who approved this? How, for instance, how do you approve a fuel station in a densely populated residential area? Those are questions that people ask. So those questions that Titi Lokbe has raised, would you like to attempt to talk about them?
Titi has made very vital point. Like I was trying to explain, these disasters, they happen at local communities. And these communities are within states. And states have laws, town planning laws, that must be implemented. A situation where town planners or the agency decide to approve building plans indiscriminately without taking recourse to where is a floodplain, where is a natural water flow channel, is against nature. So we encourage, it's part of our preparedness and mitigation strategy, that our officers across the country are trying to cascade down with active collaboration with the State Emergency Management Agency, because they have that role. NEMA does not have the power to enforce. Recall we run a federal system of government. So the responsibility lies squarely with the states, especially with the agency that has been saddled with this responsibility, with the State Emergency Management Agency, that must work with the other MDAs, especially the Ministry of Urban Development, the town planning agencies, and all of that, to ensure that these town planning regulations are complied with. And once this is done, you see that it will help to a large extent, to mitigate the impact of the disasters. I consider a situation where this is a natural water pathway and somebody decides to put a structure on that place. Certainly, water will find its level and it will result to flooding. So we encourage that states should take decisive action to ensure that these practices are discouraged. And the issue too, like I raised, that citizens, should eschew the practice of indiscriminate waste disposal. It's one of the reasons why we have...
If I may come in, because while you talk about indiscriminate waste disposal, which City Lokwe has also talked about, the issues are clear about enforcement of these problems. How do we enforce? How do we ensure that? Because frankly, if you check properly, the difference between us and the advanced world is that regulation is taken very seriously, and any infringement, if you go wrong, you pay for it. So, who is responsible for what? Who takes care of? Because, like you said, maybe you want to talk to us about how these state agencies have responded to NEMA's advisories and collaboration over time.
Yes, a few of the states, or some of the states, have really been complying with these advisories. They've been taking the advisories seriously. Many others are yet to comply actively. Why do I say so? The act that established the National Emergency Management Agency also provides that states should set up state emergency management agency, and local government will set up local emergency management committees. And that is the coordination architecture for disaster management in Nigeria.
Okay.
So where states do not have these institutions, it becomes difficult for NEMA to coordinate with them. It becomes difficult. Some of the states during this period, instead of strengthening their own existing state emergency management agencies, they prefer to set up flood management committees, ad hoc structures. So we encourage the states to set up the state management agency. State emergency management agency should have the powers to enforce some of the, and I'm sure even the town planning laws, they have penalty for infraction. So it should, like you made reference to advanced societies, enforcement of regulation is key. Citizens must learn to comply with regulation. It's when we comply with regulation that there will be order in the society. And such order will result to our effort to mitigate the impact of the disaster.
Let me go back to Titi Lokwe now. Titi, you've listened to Godwin here, and for me, the key issue is regulation. What do you think is the problem with regulation here? Because across the country, there are different government structures. We have this, the federal government is there, the state governments are there, the local governments are all there, yet we still struggle with compliance.
Yeah, for me, I think it's more of enforcement. And when we talk about enforcement, it means that government must treat everybody equally in terms of whoever has been found guilty must face the wrath of the law. Not, of course, putting in preferential treatment, because a lot of our people like to go underneath and ask for privileges. And then, okay, I know the government, I know who is who, I want to be removed. But the truth is that if we have a good law that deals with it, and then somebody is caught, let that person face the wrath of the law. I'm talking about real good enforcement. That is not partial. And half of the problem we have is that we have an enforcement it's not enforced against every other person that has been found that has infringed upon the laws. So government needs to look at itself and be sure that it actually wants to enforce the laws that has been made in terms of enforcement. So if enforcement is not not done properly, then we'll continue to have those infractions go unattended to. So I think enforcement is our big problem in this country. Yeah.
All right. A final word for you, Titi Lokwe, before I let you go. What lessons do you think coastal areas, especially low-lying areas like Lagos and other states, can learn from the advanced world? For instance, the Netherlands has quite a large part of it that's also below sea level, just like Lekki that you mentioned. So what lessons can we learn very quickly?
Yeah, I think the lessons we can learn is we need to understand them. We need to understand the solutions that have affected and that has worked, and see how we can domesticate that down here to some of our low-lying areas. And then we must take the issue of climate smart infrastructure seriously, because we cannot continue this way. We must also begin to look at the integrity of our dams, because those dams were actually constructed at a time we were not thinking around climate change. And now climate change is happening. What will be the additional problems that climate change is going to bring on those dams? And that's why we need to assess the integrity of those dams, see what we can fix there, and see how most of the time that when the water is so much, or maybe there's a way they can find an engineering solution to it to ensure that at least it will take much more water rather than releasing water into the community. I think these are things we can take forward. And let me tell you, they are not rocket science. The solutions are out there. It's just for us to see which one works for us and how we implement it. I know it's a matter of financing, and yet there are different ways where we can mobilize financing to ensure that this is done. And one more thing I also want us to really look at is around the health aspect of it, because that is very, very terrible. Because I saw on the online an hospital that was flooded, a mortuary that was flooded, and bodies were just coming out. You can imagine the kind of outbreak of disease that we can have. We must also take the issue of diseases seriously during this time, because I think 2 years ago we had cholera outbreak, we have diarrhea, all sorts, and we needed to deal with it. So as we are doing all these things, we must strengthen our disease surveillance systems to ensure that we address any outbreaks that may occur as a result of the flooding.
Thank you very much, Titi Lokwe. That was quite succinct. And Godwin, a final word from you. Which states are likely to experience heavy flooding this year, and how do we avoid casualties and destruction of poverty?
Well, the states that are likely to experience heavy flooding this year have been predicted by NISA, 33 of them. I may not have the opportunity to roll out all of them.
Okay.
So we encourage citizens to comply with the advisories and to heed to NEMA's climate-related preparedness and mitigation strategy. Recall that all sectors, a lot of them, and the economy will be impacted. Is it agriculture? Is it food? Is it aviation and all that?
Health.
Yes, we have clearly put out the strategies for mitigation and preparedness in our document. So they should comply with that.
How accessible is the document?
It's on our website, and I have a hard copy here. It's on our website, www.nema.gov.ng.
Okay, so it's easy.
Yeah, it's easy
to access it on your website.
Yes, to access.
And so this is the roadmap.
Yeah, so we also encourage the states to make their state emergency management functional. because that is where the crux of the matter is. And it's the weakest link in our coordination effort. If we don't have this institution at the sub-level strengthened, it becomes difficult to coordinate them and to make sure that the impact of this year's flooding is mitigated as much as possible.
All right, thank you very much. Godwin Tepiko, Director of Planning, Research and Forecasting at the National Emergency Management Agency, joining me this morning alongside Titilokwe Akosa, Environmental Advance and Executive Director, 21st Century Issues, Nigeria. Thank you very much, Titilokwe. Enjoy your day out there in Lagos. Thank you for coming on the show, too.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We'll take a break. When we come back, it will be time for Kakaaki Social. Stay with us.
Get ready for a bold new chapter in political discourse. The conversations that matter most are stepping into the spotlight like never before. Political platform, the hard-hitting, no-holds-barred program you have trusted on Ray Power Radio is making a powerful move to television. Tune in to Africa Independent Television, AIT, as political platform debuts on your screen, bringing deeper analysis, sharper debates, and the voices shaping our nation's future right into your screens. From policy and politics breakdowns to real-time discussions with key stakeholders, this is more than a program. It is where opinions are tested, truths are uncovered, and the people's voice is heard. Join seasoned hosts and expert guests as they tackle the issues that define our democracy. No filters, no distractions, just real talk. Political platform now on AIT, 9 to 10 a.m. every weekday. Stay informed, stay engaged, be part of the conversation.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Get ready for a bold new chapter in political discourse. The conversations that matter most are stepping into the spotlight like never before. Political platform, the hard-hitting, no-holds-barred program you have trusted on Ray Power Radio is making a powerful move to television. Tune in to Africa Independent Television, AIT, as political platform debuts on your screen, bringing deeper analysis, sharper debates, and the voices shaping our nation's future right into your screens. From policy and politics breakdowns to real-time discussions with key stakeholders, this is more than a program. It is where opinions are tested, truths are uncovered, and the people's voice is heard. Join seasoned hosts and expert guests as they tackle the issues that define our democracy. No filters, no distractions, just real talk. Political platform now on AIT, 9 to 10 a.m. every weekday. Stay informed, stay engaged, be part of the conversation.
A beautiful morning to you and welcome to Kakaaki Social this Thursday morning. I am Chidera Ezudue and this is Kakaaki Social, where we bring the stories, the top stories across social media, making waves here and there. Now let's get started. A video of Daddy Enoch Adeboye is trending after he spoke about Nigeria's economy. Now, according to the cleric, the country was already facing financial challenges before the president took office. He said opposition to some government policies contributed to the Naira's decline, adding that prayers helped prevent the exchange rate from reaching $10,000 to $1 US. This comment has since sparked mixed reaction online. Now, what is your take on this? Let's see this video.
Everybody knew that the major reasons why we were having financial problems, we'll be having it all before he came in, is the fact that a lot of money was being spent to import petrol. can we be importing petrol? We have this in abundance here. We spent billions of naira on our refineries. They didn't work. So we can be able to keep on importing. That's why when the president came in, the very first day he came, he said, this money they spend in importing petrol, he says he canceled it. And we were all rejoicing. Hey, thank God. But some people were angry. Those who are making money from importing petrol. And they decided, okay, we will create a problem. And all of a sudden, naira began to go down fast. I cried to my people, let us pray. Thank God some people joined me in praying. Because the way naira was going then, if God has not intervened, by now $1 will be about 10,000 naira. But God.
Okay, well, let's see how netizens are taking the story. Now, eTouch is saying the GO of the Redeemed Christian Church of God is now meddling into politics. I think it's time our Bible scholars show the world any portion of the European Giving Bible where Jesus Christ went political, aside from give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, quote. Indeed, the church pulpit is now a transactional tool. And the final reaction is from Emmanuel, who says, Nigeria, then one of the most prayerful countries, always have setback because people pray instead of doing the right thing. Even though some people in the US don't like Trump, the country never has any setback. This is a proof that prayer isn't always the answer. Well, moving on. I didn't even know the PDP was still in existence. Now, this was the reaction from Godswill Akpabio after a candidate from the People's Democratic Party emerged victorious in a recent election. The Senate president's remark has sparked conversations online, with many Nigerians reacting to the unexpected comments. Now, to you, what do you think? Let's see Akpabio's video.
Senator Eten Williams, Senator Olaga Wogu, whom I understand just won election from PDP. I didn't know that there was still PDP. I'm sure it's somewhere, and so many other distinguished senators, members of the working committee of the people of the APC. We can stop confusing us. If a party has died, allow it to die.
Wow. Let's see how netizens have been reacting. Now, first one is saying the Senate president genuinely forgot an opposition party existed until they won an election with the crying emoji. That's either the most honest thing a politician has ever said or the most embarrassing. Now, moving on, Michelle says, me too, Your Excellency. I thought the umbrella was destroyed. Amazing. So there's still a party called PDP. Wonders shall never end. This is so baffling and confusing because I actually saw the party fall down and destroyed. And the final reaction is from Da Vinci, who says, PDP never knew a day like this will ever come, when the party will be a laughing stock. In the same manner, a time will also come when APC will be mocked so bad. So let APC laugh now while they can, because nothing lasts forever. It's okay. Now, Nigeria is set to receive a fresh $1.2 billion loan after the World Bank approved a new funding under its Nigeria Action for Investment and Jobs Acceleration Program. This loan is aimed at supporting economic reforms, boosting investment, and creating job opportunity. This approval has already sparked mixed reaction, with many Nigerians expressing concern over the country's growing debt profile. But then, what are your thoughts on the new loan? Let us know in the comments. That is on YouTube at AIT_online. But then let's see how netizens have been reacting to the new loan that you understand. Now, Nino is saying, who will pay back all those loans? And the World Bank keeps on giving and granting them the loan. And moving on, another user, Innocent, says, honestly, this World Bank is among our problem in this country. Approving loan upon loan for us, and yet we are facing massive insecurity in this country. But then my question is, why is this money, or rather, what is this money meant for? Moving on, Cryptoman says the world should know that Nigeria has abundant mineral resources, but our minimum wage is 70,000 naira, equivalent to $50 US, despite inflation. And our government cannot protect us from bandits and kidnappers. And we have one more reaction from Wandy, who says, at this point, I just want to know, now who be the collateral for all these loans? Hope it is not also I beg. May they not wake up one morning, can't tell us to report at the port. Hopefully, we are not collateral to the loan. Now, he says, my vision is to build a productive and prosperous Nigeria. That is what Peter Obi said in his tweet from the country. Now, in a tweet released yesterday, Obi said his administration will focus on tackling government abuse, improving the quality of life for Nigerians, and promoting unity, peace, social justice, and economic prosperity. He also added that more details of his roadmap will be unveiled in the coming weeks and months. Now, let's see this reaction. But before the reaction, this was Obi's tweet, and I'm going to take from the paragraph because he made a mention about, okay, he said, from the outset of my presidency, we will establish a task force dedicated drastically to reducing the menace of out-of-school children. He says we'll place greater emphasis on technical and vocational education training to support and drive our massive industrialization anchored on our agricultural endowment and value. Now, a lot of persons kept on reacting to this technical and vocational educational training. Let's see what netizens are saying concerning Obi's tweet. Now, Ali says, TVET, that is the technical, vocational, and educational, yes. So he says the same one this administration has started and even paying the students monthly stipends. You want to establish what this present administration has already commenced? And Jeff is saying, you remain a character that we know, tested and trusted. You have been a man of your words, and Nigerians, most especially the youths and masses, are solidly behind your presidency. You have maintained your integrity and promises for years, even while governing Anambra State. You have clearly outlined what your presidency would look like, and only this can get Nigeria to a productive nation to grow and move out of this APC government. A new Nigeria is possible only with Peter Obi. And moving on, we have Ali, who says, see the person talking about reforms in education and healthcare, the same man that did not build a single block of classroom and who allowed doctors to go on strike for 1 year and 1 month during his time as governor. I think we have one more reaction from JK, who says, you see, everything mentioned here can only be implemented by a leader who is competent and who cares for the people. Someone who gives you rice and face cap can never provide even a quarter of what is discussed here. Only someone who is neither greedy nor a thief. He says Obi is the person that we need. Now, I never approved foreign loans without proper scrutiny. That is the clarification from the former Senate President, Bukola Saraki. Now, speaking at a global policy meeting in Italy, Saraki said that every foreign loan request during his tenure underwent thorough legislative scrutiny, insisting he never rubber-stamped borrowing proposal. He also added that 8 National Assembly prioritize fiscal accountability, open budget hearing, and reforms aimed at improving government transparency. Let's see what netizens are saying concerning what Saraki said. Now, Idayat is saying, thank you, Your Excellency, sir. This is the kind of leadership Nigerians need more. Most Nigerians do not realize how much damage foreign loans cause later. You took the political hit, so the country wouldn't take the financial hit. That's statesmanship. And Mary says, many of those loans were accepted as if they were free gifts, yet repayment obligations remained. That line should be printed and hung in every National Assembly office. Loans aren't gifts. Someone has to pay them back, usually the next generation. That is one thing about borrowing. Now, Lord Abi says when Bukola Saraki was the Senate President of Nigeria, he already had plans for Nigeria on Africa and and on global level. His Excellency said, and I quote, "These were not easy fights, but they were necessary ones because the alternative is permanent external dependency. Leader plus visionary." That is a good leader. And the final reaction from Northern Mariana, who says, "If every loan truly passed through rigorous scrutiny, Nigerians should have seen more value for the debts we've accumulated. Borrowing isn't the problem. Waste, weak oversight, and poor execution are. Whether past or present, every public official must account for every kobo." Okay, now moving on. Nigeria has emerged as Africa's top-performing economy in the 2026 IMD World Competitiveness Ranking for Economic Performance Pillar. The latest ranking places Nigeria ahead of other African economies in the economic performance, highlighting improvement in key economic indicators despite the ongoing challenges that we are facing. This development has sparked fresh conversations about the country's economic outlook. Now, do you think this ranking reflects the reality on ground? Does this ranking, making us number one, does it reflect what we are currently going through in Nigeria? Let's see what you're seeing in the space of X. Now, Lady G says rankings are one thing, but the reality on the street tells a different story. Many Nigerians are still battling high living costs, unemployment, and inflation. Economic success should be felt by the people, not just seen in reports. And another reaction from Eruja says, Nigerians will keep lying to themselves that economy is bad. But mini flat is an average of 1.5 million naira, and they are still rushed like hotcake. It is the same Nigerians at home that are buying most properties, unlike before when it was those in diaspora that are closing these deals. I think we have King James, who says recognition is good, sustained, but the improvement that people can actually feel is better than recognition. Now, Shore has been trending, and he says, when I become president, JAMB and the NYSC in their current forms will be scrapped. That was the bold promise made in a statement outlining a vision for performing and reforming Nigeria's education and youth development system. This proposal calls for tertiary institutions to handle their own admissions under a transparent merit-based process, while replacing the current NYSC scheme with a voluntary 2-year national job corps focused on jobs, skills, entrepreneurship, and career opportunities for young Nigerians. Now, this was Showere's tweet with his campaign picture, and netizens have been reacting to this tweet and the picture of when he becomes president in 2027. Let's see what netizens have been saying. Now, Anthony says, I'm not a fan of this current government and they have misplaced priority. But when you hear what the opposition is offering, it's pathetic. Is JAMB and NYSC the major issue right now? We can't feed ourselves. Power is epileptic. No industry, no job opportunity, insecurity, and corruption keeps getting worse and worse. Now, this user is saying, honestly, I really wish this man, that Showore, becomes the president of this country. He has tried a lot for every one of us. Take it or leave it. He has been working hard, putting his life on the line for every one of us. And one more reaction from Gabriel says, Nigeria needs JAMB. Without it, universities will prioritize revenue over merit. Corruption will worsen and exams will be costly. Reform JAMB, do not abolish it. Okay, now finally, ballot box snatching and election result manipulation are a thing of the past. That is an assurance from Joash Amipito, who says electoral body is fully prepared to safeguard every vote in the 2027 general election. Now, according to the INEC chairman, improved technology and stronger electoral safeguards will help ensure free, fair, and credible elections across Nigeria. Let's see what netizens have been saying about what the INEC chairman said. Now, Kingsley says, I pray it is not the kind of technology that JAMB hyped for months, only to bring out results that were upside down. Transparent and credible elections are not rocket science. If other countries can, why can't we? Now, Kingsley is also saying Professor Mahmoud Yakubu promised even more. What was the outcome? They used the digital infrastructure to give us an outdated person. He said he doesn't even understand our technology. Now, the final reaction in this story is coming from Solomon, who's calling INEC chairman and says, please use the 2027 general election to restore the lost hope of Nigerians on INEC and our electoral processes. All eyes are focused on INEC come 2027. Please note that Nigerians have learned their lessons from the incidents of 2023, and we are now wiser. We are better prepared for our electoral process come 2027. That is a huge encouragement to Joash and Mupito now. That is where we call it and say bye on this segment. See you same time tomorrow. I am Chidera Isdui, and you can reach us via the social media handles displayed on the screen.
The FIFA World Cup 2026 is here. Watch all 104 matches live on StarTimes, from the opening match to the final showdown.
And this time, it's not just watching, it's watch and win.
Subscribe or buy a StarTimes decoder and stand a chance to win the 10 million naira grand prize, plus many exciting prizes nationwide with subscription packages starting from just 4,000 naira. Recharge now via StarTimes app or visit any StarTimes office or dealer outlet near you.
StarTimes. Enjoy digital life.
Every day, across forests, highways, towns, and villages, brave men and women stand watch so that Nigeria can sleep. They leave their families behind, confront danger head-on, and make sacrifices many of us will never see. Yet, the enemies of our nation continue their assault. They target our children. They murder innocent citizens. They force families from their homes. They turn thriving communities into places of fear and uncertainty. Their goal is simple: to break our spirit, divide our people, and steal the future of our nation. But Nigeria is stronger than terror. As we demand greater accountability, stronger security measures, and more effective action from those entrusted with our safety, we must also play our part. Support our security forces. Salute their gallantry. Stand with those who stand for us. If you see something, say something. Let us be our brother's keeper. We must never surrender to fear, despair, or hopelessness. This is not the time for division, not by tribe, not by religion, not by region, not by political party. Because terror recognizes no ethnicity, no faith, and no ideology. Its enemy is all of us. And together, united as one people, we can defeat it. For our children, for our communities, for our future, for Nigeria. Join the movement. Stand for our country. Stand for one another. Hashtag Unite Against Terror.
On your mandate we shall stand. Asiwaju. On your mandate we shall stand. Bola. On your mandate. Mandate. On your mandate. Asiwaju. On your mandate we shall stand.
The wheels of Nigeria's progress are advancing, and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu door-to-door movement is also advancing the renewed hope agenda by inviting you to a historic occasion of the inauguration of the National Executives, led by the founder and Grand Patron, High Chief Dr. Government Owezide Ekpemupolo alias Tompolo. Date, Thursday, 9th July 2026 at the Nigerian Army Conference Center and Suites, Asokoro, Abuja, by 11 a.m. prompt. Join leaders and patriotic citizens from across the nation to witness this historic movement. The PBAT door-to-door movement, together for a greater Nigeria.
Asiwaju. On your mandate we shall stand.
Asiwaju cares.
The FIFA.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Thank you very much for staying with us. If you are just joining us, you are watching Kakaaki, the African Voice on African Independent Television this Thursday morning, the second day of July 2026, and time for us to go into our second conversation this morning. I told you at the beginning of the program that the World Bank has approved $27 million in performance-based grants for 20 Nigerian states that successfully met governance, education, and healthcare reform benchmarks. And 5 states emerged as the highest beneficiaries, securing $3 million each. That's Bayelsa, Borno, Kano, Kebbi, and Yobe states. And they got this money for different reasons. 10 other states got less amounts of money, while 16 states got nothing. Why is it so? What is this all about? Let's look at the World Bank and reforms here in Nigeria. Dr. Joshua Danila is joining me virtually. He's a management and business services consultant and a public affairs analyst. Dr. Danila, good morning. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me.
I hope you can hear me clearly.
Sure, yes, I can hear you.
Oh, lovely. Now, looking at these grants that have been given by the World Bank, what message is the World Bank sending to Nigeria by giving such grants to 20 states? They are called performance-based grants.
Yeah, thank you very much. The message that this brings to Nigeria is that governments that reform plan better, they become more transparent and improve service delivery. This will now be the basis for receiving additional funds from the World Bank. The benefit is that it shifts public finance from money spending to achieving results. Now, we need to let our viewers know what exactly these states did to qualify for this award. The incentives were not just awarded because the states were politically aligned or economically larger. They earned these rewards by implementing reforms such as better budgeting for basic education, better budgeting for primary health care, the published citizens' budget so residents can understand government spending. And this also helps them harmonize local government accounting system by introducing standardized work plans, which helps to improve transparency and financial reporting. So, in essence, these reforms make it easier to monitor public funds and reduce leakages.
All right. Now, what exactly, can you break it down for us? Because you talked about budgeting. What about implementation? Because what we hear from governments year in, year out is that, we budgeted, but we have only done 35% implementation, sometimes 27% implementation. So what have these states done right?
Okay, I think primarily there are two primary focus areas, which is primary healthcare and education.
Okay.
States, what they have successfully done is they have put in place a framework, but to what extent implementation has been carried out, we really cannot say. I think the World Bank needs to carry along the media and the non-governmental organizations for them to really confirm, to verify from the man on the street that these reforms which they claim to have implemented or qualified for on the basis for this to receive this award is actually trickling down to the man on the street. But based on World Bank requirements, these states that qualified have put in place the framework to improve their budgeting, and also, I mean, they are seen to be in line with meeting the criteria of benchmarks that World Bank has set for them to get better funding instead of just, I mean, when I mean better funding, their funding will be result-based. So the World Bank sees that you are actually doing what is right to increase accountability and bring about transparency into your budget spend. So once you have qualified for this, once you have met these basic criteria, then the World Bank says, okay, you are in line and this is your reward. So this can encourage other states to take similar steps so they can get better measurable results from every budget implementation.
So this sounds like the World Bank has KPIs for state governments in Nigeria without actually coming out to state that clearly in words and in deed. So rewarding these states for complying with the reforms that the World Bank expects to see. But are there any other benefits that these states will get apart from these $3 million each, or is it just this?
What we expect is to see that these benefits from improved transparency in their operation, in their governance structure. We want to see how this trickle down to the man on the street. So far, so good. I'm not in most of those states, so I really cannot say if these benefits have started trickling down to the people. But you know, reforms are such that it happens gradually over time. So it's a new innovation from the World Bank. So let's watch out and see how over time these benefits can trickle down to measurable outcomes, because the World Bank, they have set their own parameters for these states. They have identified states that have met this criteria. It's also now left to Nigerians and the man on the street to say, okay, how has this affected my life? But we know that states that diligently follow these KPIs, they are expected to bring down results that directly have impacts on the life of the people or residents in such states over time.
Dr. Daniela, some skeptics think that this is just another ploy by the Bretton Woods institutions to suck Nigeria into more of its controversial recovery schemes. Is there any truth in that?
Well, I think this is just to encourage, you know, the World Bank. I agree with you, with most skeptics, that a lot of the World Bank programs have not brought in measurable benefits to the ordinary man in Nigeria. But internationally, we are seeing some effects, because when you are seen to be doing things rightly, you win the confidence of the international community. People trust you, and it improves on your on the performance of governance within such areas. But how this now trickles down to the man on the street is what is important, and that is what matters to Nigeria. But I'm sure that over time, this issue of mistrust will be addressed if our states move beyond just mere paper implementation to seeing that this effect is felt by everybody.
And they are on ground. Okay, but I'd like to know, because I'm thinking here that there's this thing called human capital opportunities for prosperity and equity, HOPE. What is it about?
Yeah, the HOPE program, which is Health Education Optimization through Performance and Efficiency, is a structure that rewarding states that implement this measurable reform in public financial management. Particularly, I think their primary focus is on education and primary health care, because that's an area that has a very huge gap in Nigeria. Most of our schools they have dilapidated buildings. Some children are learning under trees. Most of our hospitals are without drugs. So if this program by the World Bank is followed through based on the primary objective, I'm sure that over time we'll see some improvement in these key areas, these two key areas that is having the key focus for now.
So what does this all say about the relationship between government in Nigeria? And I'm not talking about just the federal government, but government at the different, even at the subnational levels, and the World Bank.
Well, it shows that the World Bank means well for the country to some extent, even though they are also a business entity. They make money from the country. I'm sure that if the government can also toe the line of the World Bank and ensure that FAC allocations are not just given, there should be a mechanism for measuring the impact of this allocation or how these allocations affect the life of Nigerians in these two key areas. I think it's very important if the federal government can toe the step of the World Bank to ensure that when they give FAC allocations, there's a good structure in place to ensure that this money do not just vanish through various projects which the state government and also the local government create without really giving any benefits to the people.
Now, I'd like to find out from you what you think Nigerian governments at different levels can do to motivate themselves, because a while ago you talked about children learning under trees and in dilapidated structures, some of them sitting on the floor to learn, and they're still using blackboards in 2026. So if the World Bank is rewarding these states for good frameworks in primary health care and education, how else can these states and even the federal government motivate themselves to do better in terms of delivering the deliverables that the people get from these governments?
Yes, the government is about improving life and protecting the people. You see, the idea behind this is to ensure that performance earns additional resources, according for the on the side of the World Bank. Then on the side of the Nigerian government, I think we should be looking at states changing their approach to budget management, ensuring that the culture of the days where we have abandoned classrooms, shortage of teachers, delayed projects, and are over, so that we can have good learning outcomes, better school infrastructure, and also monitoring of education spending. Primary healthcare should also come into key focus so that the reforms can improve on the budgeting, procurement, the planning and accountability in these areas. This can, if this is effectively followed through and implemented, the people can have more confidence in the government. So there's another key area which we need to highlight. It is good for government to unify the reporting structures in auditing and also accounting, so that these things become transparent and even the layman can understand when they see budget reports. And these reports can be, because you see, when every state or every local government reports their budget in different formats or under different structure, there's room for confusion, and this makes it difficult, and this now begins to erode the trust between the people and the government. For the government to win the trust of the people, there's a need to unify the structure for reporting and also to give Nigerians all necessary information. They need to know how their money is being spent. They need to have an overview of the outcomes, not just budgeting every year, and there's no structure for ensuring that these budgets bring about significant change in the life of the people. So the Nigerian government must change their approach from monitoring, just giving out money and not caring how the money goes. There must be a structure in place to ensure that these monies are closely monitored, and so they can have some measurable impact in the life of the people of the various localities and subnationals.
Yeah, Dr. Daniela, one of the newspapers that we looked at during the newspaper review this morning talked about the IMF saying that Nigeria has about a 2% gap in the accountability. I'm trying to recall exactly how the paper put it, but there seems to be a gap between budgeting and actual spending, which is what essentially the IMF is talking about. Are these indices that the World Bank also looks at, and how can Nigeria avoid this particular it's a trap of sorts, because when you do extra budgetary spending, it means you are stepping out of your own guidelines for spending for the year and are practically breaking the law.
Yes, I agree with you, and I agree with the World Bank that in Nigeria, budgets are not, there's no discipline, there's no fiscal discipline. on the part of the government at various levels in Nigeria. They make budgets and go outside this budget, and there's no follow-through to ensure that they keep within the spending limits of this budget. So, and that's why the growth rate of our economy is so poor. So you see, for governments, for Nigerians to progress economically, there must be discipline in the system. There must be accountability, which is key. Accountability is the key problem why our economy is growing at a very poor rate. And that is also the primary reason why, even when the economy grows, the common man on the street does not feel the impact. Implementation is so poor, and there's opacity. People don't know what some of these monies are spent for. Contracts are not, most contracts are advertised after they have even been awarded by most governments. Why majority of the state governments don't even bother to advertise contracts. They to bring in transparency into the system. They award contracts without the people knowing. They go beyond what they have originally budgeted for. This is very destructive to the economy of Nigeria, and also it makes life difficult for the people, and it makes it difficult for the people to hold government accountable in their budget implementation.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Joshua Danila. We are going to have to leave it there this morning. Thank you for your time and your insight this morning. Dr. Joshua Danila, Management and Business Services Consultant and Public Affairs Analyst, joined me all the way from Warri in Delta State this morning to look at the World Bank on reforms in Nigeria. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right, moving away from that now, it's time for State of Human Rights.
Hello and welcome to State of Human Rights on Kakaaki, the African Voice. I am Omoyo Baki. Today, we turn our attention to an international intervention that challenges how identity is structured in our society. On Friday, June 19, 2026, the National Human Rights Commission headquarters in Abuja served as the staging ground for a crucial human rights briefing. The United Nations has sounded an alarm over systemic religious profiling and discrimination quietly woven into the fabric of daily life in Nigeria. Presented the preliminary findings at the end of a grueling 12-day fact-finding mission across Abuja, Jos, and Kano states. The United Nations Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Religion or Belief, Professor Nazila Ganeye, delivered a sobering assessment. The global envoy warned that the mandatory requirements for citizens to declare their religion on official administrative form is actively injecting discriminations into jobs, healthcare, education, and recruitment exercises. According to the UN, using religions as a dominant organizing principle in our public institution leaves it wide open to intense manipulation for political and economic gain. Let's take a look.
We have been on a country visit to Nigeria from the 8th of June until today, and we are very grateful for the straightforwardness, the honesty, and the sharing by all actors and interlocutors during our visit. All in all, we met with over 200 interlocutors during this visit. The visit, of course, is to explore freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, and how it interacts with other human rights on the ground. As you know far better than me, Nigeria is a country of multiple, multi-layered diversities and a rich pluralism. As one person put it, it's a multi-everything country. The population, putting it at the 6th most populous country in the world, the number of states, the number of local governments, the number of recognized ethnic groups, and the rich history attest to that diversity. Yet the narratives about Nigeria and even discussion of the related structures and policies are often reductive and polarizing of this pluralism. No one description is adequate to capture the whole picture of freedom of religion or belief throughout Nigeria. the search for a single explanatory framework across Nigeria may be tempting, but it proves highly inadequate. Freedom of religion or belief provisions in international human rights are, of course, binding on Nigeria as well, and they protect theistic, non-theistic, and atheistic beliefs, as well as the right not to profess any religion or belief. I'm quoting directly from the international standards. Those standards also say that this is not to be limited in its application only to traditional religions. It is really a right for everyone. It also, of course, includes indigenous spiritualities. It also applies equally to women, to girls, to children, to everyone. These legal obligations call for the absolute guarantee of a freedom to change religion or belief, to adopt, to have, to continue a religion or belief of one's choice, and to do so without any coercion whatsoever, including in the socio-economic field. The freedom goes beyond only the right to worship. It includes the right to observe, to practice, to teach, including with others and in public, and manifestation of religion or belief can only be limited. International human rights obligations emphasize manifestations can only be limited when this is enshrined in a law that is non-discriminatory. It must be the least intrusive measure possible. It must be proportionate. It must be necessary, and it must only be for reasons of public safety or the rights and freedoms of others.
That was Professor Ganea detailing how blocks are structurally enforced. The implications of her findings are widespread, touching sectors that dictate an ordinary citizen's survival. When a hospital admission, a public school enrollment, or an entry-level civil service job hinges on an applicant declaring their faith, the system subtly filters out minority faith groups, intra-religious dissenters, and citizens who choose not to identify with any religion at all. The UN report emphasizes that freedom or religion or belief is not merely about the right to go to a church or a mosque. It includes the absolute right to freedom of thought, conscience, expression, and critically, the right to not to declare any religion to the state. But institutional profiling is only one side of the coin. The special rapporteur noted that this internal social segregation is being worsened by an overreaching crisis of insecurity that is suffocating basic liberties across rural Nigeria. So let's go ahead and take a look.
But when, as a result of these crises, time and again, justice is not seen to be done, understandably, the victims start to describe this as persecution or genocide. When everything in one's world has been reduced to dust, when religious leaders have been killed, when places of worship have been destroyed in an attack, and when one observes no action, inadequate prevention, and inadequate delivery of justice, then why would one not describe it as persecution or genocide? The victims also see the authorities, both at the state and federal level, as culpable. One victim spoke of being displaced 6 times over the last 10 years, every time to a worse situation, every time having friends and family members killed. So these atrocities go beyond the niceties of legal definitions. We cannot deny victims of grave violations a voice. Now, a legal determination can ensue when Nigeria domesticates the statute of the International Criminal Court and allows for international crimes to be tried in its own domestic courts. In the interim, and as a human rights mandate, I will not reframe the voice of the victims or deny them the expression of their own experience. As one interlocutor pleaded, we need a humanity-first perspective.
Professor Ghanaia's warning against the oversimplified Muslim-Christian narrative hits a vital nerve for years. International commentary has lazily painted Nigeria as a nation cleanly split into a Muslim north and a Christian south. However, the UN's preliminary findings reveal that discrimination cuts both ways and is highly localized. The report documented complaints from stakeholders alleging systemic bias against Christians in parts of the north, while simultaneously recording restricted rights and profiling of Muslims in parts of the south. To achieve full equality, the UN envoy insists these localized silos must be broken down. She noted that while local interfaith dialogues and community peace-building initiatives are commendable steps forward, the ultimate solution requires a humanity-first perspective backed by aggressive judicial accountability and structural law reforms before her final report hits the UN Human Rights Council in March 2027. The takeaway from this landmark UN briefing is clear. Institutionalizing religious identity only serves to deepen our division. True security and freedom can only exist when the state protects its citizens based on their shared humanity, rather than the faith they declared on a piece of paper. And that is the size of our program this week on State of Human Rights on Kakaaki, the African Voice. Until next time, I am Omoyo Ogbaki.
Thank you very much, Omoye, for that package. And of course, that's the last segment on Kakaaki, the African Voice, for this Thursday. We thank you for being part of it right from 6 a.m. till now. Thank you for starting your day with us and investing time with us too. Join us again on Friday for another edition of the program. My name is Kunle Adewale. Have a great day. Stay safe wherever you are, whatever you do.